Hi, my name is Adele and I'm a trauma therapist with Naked.Recovery. I had a client session yesterday where the client, she's been through a divorce and she's met somebody following this divorce, and the guy just wants a casual relationship, and she's been seeing him for about 3 or 4 months. They text all the time. I think he has other relationships with other people at the same time, and I've sort of been observing over time how she's participating in this casual relationship. And just I was doing a bit of research and I found a very interesting piece of information in one of the journals. It was a study published in the Lancet, and what they were talking about is that from a biological perspective, men and women are very different in how they experience sex physiologically, like what actually happens hormonally, and how their bodies actually participate in the act. So I didn't know this, but it was a fun fact that the more sex a woman has with a man, and I'm talking biological men, biological women, not how you identify your gender, but it's actually just from the biological perspective. The more sex a woman has with a man, the more oxytocin and vasopressin hormones get released. These are bonding hormones. These are hormones that lead to attachment, that lead to depths of feeling and depths of romantic notions over time. Whereas men, the more sex that they have, they release testosterone, but then over time they might release more dopamine. So their feelings of success, achievement, desire, performance goes up, whereas a woman's attachment goes up. So the more sex a woman is having, she's getting more and more attached, and a guy's just feeling more and more like a winner who's getting, his performance needs met and his desire needs met. Men apparently only really release oxytocin, which is the kind of bonding, and vasopressin, the bonding hormones, when they're falling in love. And they don't fall in love necessarily through the act of sex. They fall in love because of an emotional connection. So what was interesting about this client is there isn't a lot of emotional connectioning happening with this particular fella that she's having this relationship with. They kind of meet up and they're sex buddies. Now, whatever we think about that, it doesn't really matter, but she's becoming more and more attached, and they now have quite several months of repeated exposure, shared experiences with each other. There's this familiarity that is really starting to kind of happen there. She also, as part of her history, from an attachment type perspective, so if you know anything about attachment theory, you'll know that there are 4 types of ways that we get attached. The one, attachment is on a spectrum where the x-axis measures anxiety and the y-axis measures closeness. So if you're somebody that you get very anxious in relationships, you're an anxious person, you need that closeness and reassurance. You're an anxious attachment type. Or, you have low anxiety when you're getting closeness. That's a secure attachment type. If you have high anxiety and you can't handle closeness, that's fear attached. That basically means you're somebody that pushes somebody away before they can actually do that. You're scared of getting close to people because you've been burnt or hurt or something in the past. And then there are people that have very low anxiety who don't like closeness at all. And these are the kind of dismissive avoidant kind of type. So the guy that she's in a relationship with is that kind of dismissive avoidant type. It doesn't really care. It doesn't really need relationships to feel self-assured as a person. Fair enough. But she's in the anxious attachment type column. So if you have an attachment type that is a little bit anxious, be very careful about sleeping with somebody over and over and over again where there isn't an emotional connection, so that there's an opportunity for that person to share the same feelings, vice versa, or to develop them. Secondly, be very, very careful if they're in the kind of avoidant dismissive column. They could probably just keep this exchange of benefits going and not develop or catch feelings for you. And that is a risk over time. So it's a piece of due diligence to be aware of the fact that the more as women we sleep with men, the same person, you're going to develop an emotional attachment over time. So even if you think you can just be friends from this perspective, it's very, very tricky. And it's even trickier if you have an anxious attachment background. So I hope that's helpful. Just see that as a bit of a piece of data that's interesting, but something to be aware of in your dalliances, in your relationships moving forward. Hope that's helpful.